We kind of have, unfortunately, our first team that has folded and actually folded, not actually kicked out for the 2026 season. We also just breaking last night that there's actually a championship game that had to be not can't played and declared a winner for honestly kind of a not what I think is a good decision, and a lot of people don't like it. We also are going into the National Arena League, which they're getting close to their playoff push. And not to mention, the Arena League is pretty soon going to start their season. So I think we'll start off with the now championship game that's no longer be played. And I know I decided not to really cover this much because of how things were going for league, but I kind of have to. And this just is the continuing spiral that is the AIF this year for 2026. So last night on their Facebook page, I would say about 10 p.m. Central Standard Time, that's where I got the notification for immediate release. American Indoor Football, May 4th, 2026. AIF announces cancellation of 2026 championship game. Ironmen declared league champions. The American Indoor Football today announced the cancellation of the scheduled 2026 AIF Championship game, originally set for May 9th, 2026. This decision follows an unavoidable venue conflict as the Muskin Lumberjacks have secured a playoff appearance, resulting in arena availability on the scheduled championship date. The league explored multiple alternatives to reschedule the game. However, doing so has been deemed unforeseeable due to logistics constraints, including player housing availability challenges impacting the Cedar Rapids Titans. As a result, and in accordance with league policy, the AIF has officially declared the West Michigan Ironmen as a 2026 AIF champion based on the league's best overall regular season record. This is a disappointing outcome for everyone involved, especially our players, fans who were looking forward to the championship game, said AIF Commissioner Terry Foster. We made every effort to find a solution that would allow the game to be played, but ultimately the circumstances made that impossible. The Ironmen have earned this recognition through their performance all season, and we congratulate them on a championship caliber year. The AIF extends its appreciation to all teams, players, partners, and fans for their continued support throughout the 2026 season. Okay, so it got canceled due to the other hockey team's playoff appearance with the Muskin Lumberjacks. But to me, this sounds like a big cop out. You couldn't play at the West Michigan's arena, which they could, or they could have at least delayed the game for a week or two. I don't quite understand. They just have to play it that week. I don't know, just like with them kicking out two teams, of course, one seems like it was legitimate with the Muskies earlier this year. But then the questionable with the Wyoming Cavaliers, which they still continue to play their games at with different teams throughout the rest of the year, which honestly I have a feeling that maybe, oh, I don't know, the AF1 might give them a call. But it's just kind of weird how this goes, and the West Michigan champion just become because of overall record and not actually play. Though a lot of us in the arena football community thinks that the AF is just for the Western Michigan to win just championships here. And me and Zach have said this before. If the West Michigan Ironmen decide to play for another league, the AIF is done. Seriously. Because with all the missteps that's happened with two teams and then with the others, it's like, will they be able to recover? Because I really don't know if they might play next season. They could, but it's a low probability. It's just that, honestly, with how this is run and everything, they just need to move to a better league, the West Michigan Ironmen, in my humble opinion. And the Cedar Rapids Titans, I don't know. It just they could. Well, the one thing because I messed up, the Western Michigan Ironman Arena is the one that's questioned, so they couldn't travel to Cedar Rapids. Because I know someone in our group said so West Michigan didn't want to travel, or I don't know. It's just no one really likes this, and this kind of proves why the AIF is pretty much at the very bottom tier of the arena football leagues that have been going on the last few years. All right, then, let's go to the games that we had last week. First, we'll start with the National Arena League, and they had some pretty good games. And honestly, it's kind of interesting when they're going to how this affects the playoffs because pretty soon they're going to be having playoffs here soon. They only had 3 games this week. First one, they had the Southwest Kansas Storm versus the Amarillo Warbirds, and this was a lot closer than we thought because there's no way with the record that Amarillo has, you would think they would beat this close with the Southwest Kansas Storm, and it the Trey Self played good, didn't cause any turnovers, but yet the Amarillo Warbirds were able to keep it close, but Southwest Kansas Storm still beats the Amarillo Warbirds 41-38. Don't know what the heck went on there, and believe it or not, we're gonna pretty soon because there was an almost upset that happened, and everyone was shocked how this game went. So Trey Self 11-13, 139 yards, a touchdown, 6 rushing attempts, 17 yards, and a rushing TD. Running back Jayden Sutton 15 attempts, 58 yards, 4 rushing TDs. Most of their scoring came on the ground. Wide receiver Damaris Washington, 4 receptions, 55 yards, and a touchdown. Best defensive performance for the Storm, defensive line Josiah Silver, 4 tackles and 1 attack. For Amarillo, Xavier Powell, quarterback, 12-19, 126 yards, 2 TDs, no interceptions, 7 rushing attempts for 34 yards. And also, they had 2 of their quarterbacks. The other one is has actually got more of the scoring. Demiri Croft, 3 for 6, 44 yards, a touchdown, 3 attempts, 13 yards, and a touchdown. So, and I can't recall if it was an injury, but some arena teams like to do a 2 quarterback system, but I think this was an injury. Wide receiver Christian Stokely, 2 receptions, 40 yards, and 2 TDs. Wide receiver Shaquan Currington, 4 receptions, 78 yards, and a touchdown. Best defensive form for the Storm, linebacker Trevon John, 4 tackles and 2 attacks. Then you got another battle of Colorado with the Pablo Punishers at the Colorado Spartans. Still pretty good rivalry that's coming here, but Pablo Punishers still prove that they're the better Colorado in-state team, beating them 44-27. Pablo Punishers quarterback Joshua Hollins, 10-14, 158 yards, a touchdown, an interception, 7 rushing attempts for 19 yards and a rushing TD. Fullback Joel Shaw, 7 attempts for 63 yards, 2 TDs, 2 receptions for 31 yards. Wide receiver, and that was pretty much it for the Pablo Punishers, like offense-wise, because best defensive performance, defensive lineman Chris Elmore, 3 attempts, 3 rushing attempts for 4 yards and a touchdown on offense. Then 3 tackles, 1 attack, and a half sacks on defense. Pulling double duty there. Wide receiver, then also wide receiver Taylor, Kashawn Taylor, 3 receptions, 70 yards, and a touchdown for the Punishers. Colorado, Javon Kilgo, 21-27, 201 yards, 4 TDs, 2 interceptions, 2 rushing attempts, 19 yards, and a touchdown. Wide receiver Brain Michael, 4 receptions, 51 yards, a touchdown, 9 attempts, 30 yards, and a touchdown. Where are we at here? Oh, I'm sorry, it's 44-37. For some reason, I had a 2 there for some reason. Wide receiver Stephen Newbold, 6 receptions, 90 yards, and a touchdown. And best defense performer for the Spartans, defensive lineman Sam Heyman, 5 tackles, 2 attacks, and a sack. Final game for the NAL, the Salina Liberty versus Louisiana Rubaru. And surprising, this one was also close too. Of course, Rubaru put up a fight after being shut out in the first quarter, but kept on going. But the Liberty, being the Liberty that they are, because both the 2 Kansas teams in the National Arena League are basically 1 and 2 in the National Arena League this year, and also the newcomers. So yeah, Selena keeps on going and losing every. Even though they're losing, it's still close. So it's kind of interesting how that is going right now. Selena quarterback Evan Lewowski, 11 to 14, 113 yards, 3 TDs, 1 interceptions, 3 attempts for 16 yards and a touchdown. Running back Tracy Brooks, 11 attempts, 30 yards, 2 rushing TDs, 2 receptions for 16 yards. Wide receiver Kavon Samuels, 1 reception for 8 yards, and then 9 rushing attempts for 50 yards and a rushing TD. Wide receiver John Williams, 2 receptions, 21 yards, and 2 TDs. Wide receiver Ed Smith Jr., 2 receptions for 16 yards and a touchdown. Best defensive performance for the Liberty defensive lineman Travis Taylor, 5 tackles and 3 attacks. More of the defensive lineman here in the National for defensive performance, it seems. Louisiana Ruby Larry Morton, 10 through 21, 130 yards, 3 TDs, 1 interception, 9 attempts for 43 yards and 2 touchdowns. Wide receiver Trevon Colbert, 4 receptions, 32 yards. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. A little bit of technical difficulty there, but I'm back. Wide receiver Jordan. Okay. And wide receiver Rashad Ridley, 3 receptions, 40 yards and a touchdown. Wide receiver Jordan Barter, 2 receptions, 43 yards and a touchdown. Best defensive performer James Petrick, 2 tackles, 1 attack, 1 fumble recovery, and an interception. Yeah, so you actually have a wide receiver playing defense according to the stats. Now to the IFL. Kind of going mid into the middle part of the season because, dear Lord, because I always have to remember the Indoor Football League is basically the CFL of Canadian, the CFL of Arena Football, having about 17 weeks or more, depending, but I digress on that. So, Green Bay and Fisher's Freight, very good back and forth game. Stuck it out to the end, and the Blizzard just barely beat the Fisher's Freight 57 to 52. Green Bay quarterback Liam Thompson, 17 to 22, 209 yards, 3 TDs, 10 attempts for 3 rushing TDs. Running back Demlin Brown, 8 attempts, 26 rushing yards, and 2 touchdowns. Wide receiver Isaiah Ross, 6 receptions, 73 yards, and a touchdown. Wide receiver Terrell Carey, 5 receptions, 46 yards, and a touchdown. Best defensive performance Frankie West Jr., 7 tackles, 2 assists. And 2 assists, tackles on defense. Fisher's Freight quarterback Felix Harper, 10 to 14, 95 yards, 2 TDs, 11 rushing attempts for 37 yards, and 2 rushing TDs. Running back Josiah King, 15 attempts, 90 yards, 2 touchdowns. Then also 2 kick returns for 40 yards. Wide receiver Dominic Roberto, 1 reception, 12 yards, 4 attempts for 3 yards and a touchdown. Wide receiver Sage Wyndham, 4 receptions, 32 yards and a touchdown. Wide receiver JT Stokes, 2 receptions, 20 years and a touchdown. Best defensive performer Marcus Gray, 5 tackles with 3 assists. And I do expect this one to be a rematch in the playoffs. And as I said before last week, Fisher Freight for only being their second year, they're just playing really good. And we just have to see what's going on here. Next, we got the continuing momentum for the Jacksonville Sharks versus the newest expansion team of the IFL, the New Mexico Chupacabras. This one was actually a lot more closer than I thought, but especially because first the Jacksonville had the momentum, then the second Chupacabra shut out the Jacksonville Sharks and scoring 2 touchdowns. Third quarter and fourth, it was just Jacksonville just scoring just another time, one more than the Chupacabras in the third and fourth quarter. Yeah, and honestly, if it wasn't for Jerome Johnson for New Mexico, they wouldn't even be for this close. There's a reason why he's the former MVP. So the Jacksonville Sharks beat the New Mexico Chupacabras 43 to 32. Uh, Jerome Johnson for New Mexico, 21 through 29, 177 yards, 3 TDs, 1 interception, 7 rushing attempts for 35 yards and a touchdown. Running back LaJames White, 7 attempts for 28 yards, 2 receptions for 8 yards. Running back Walter Wilbon III, 7 rush attempts for 17 yards and a touchdown, with 4 receptions for 38 yards and a receiving touchdown. Wide receiver J. Jefferson, 5 receptions for 48 yards and a touchdown. And then best defensive, wide receiver Isaiah Crocker, 4 receptions for 40 yards and a touchdown. Best defensive performer for Chupacabras, Luke Kelly, 5 tackles, 0 assists, and a sack. Jacksonville Sharks quarterback James Calhoun, boy, he had a game. 14 through 17, 192 yards, 5 TDs, 4 attempts for 16 yards rushing. Running back Jimmy Robinson Jr., 9 attempts, 14 yards and a touchdown, 2 receptions for 16 yards. Wide receiver Jalen May, 5 receptions, 68 yards and a touchdown. Also, wide receiver Mikael Wade, 4 receptions, 49 yards and 2 TDs. Wide receiver Red Douglas, 2 receptions, 33 yards, receiving and a touchdown. And wide receiver Anthony Evelyn, 1 reception for 3 yards and a touchdown. Best defensive performer for the Sharks, Clay Fields the third, 7 tackles and 4 assists. Next one, we got the San Diego Strike Force against the Tulsa Oilers, and talk about another close one, kind of similar to the Chupacabras and Jacksonville Sharks, because it was kind of even in the first quarter. Then Tulsa scored and shut out San Diego Strike Force, and then they just kept matching the other two. And if San Diego was able to get like another score or two, then they would have won. But Tulsa Oilers beat the San Diego Strike Force 51-42. San Diego Strike Force quarterback Nat Davis, 27-43, 209 yards, 5 TDs, 3 attempts and 7 yards. And honestly, as of right now, Nate Davis is like 1 or 2 up for the MVP candidate for the IFL for 2026. Running back Edward Vander, 9 attempts for 8 yards and a touchdown, 7 receptions for 61 yards. Wide receiver Shane Hooks, 10 receptions for 59 yards and 2 TDs. Wide receiver Cole Blackman, 5 receptions, 41 yards and a touchdown. Wide receiver Dallas Daniels, 4 receptions, 37 yards and 2 TDs. Best defensive for San Diego Strike Force was William Barber with 7 tackles. The IFL needs to do something better with their defensive stats, because seriously, they put the name, they don't even put position like the other leagues do. They still need to fix that. Tulsa quarterback TJ Edwards, 12 through 19, 135 yards, 2 TDs, 9 rushing attempts for 26 yards, and 3 rushing TDs. Running back Jeremy Smith III, 4 receptions for 101 yards and 2 TDs. Mike Kerrigan, best defensive performer for the Oilers. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Mike Kerrigan, outside of the other stuff, had 3 kick returns for 67 return yards and a touchdown. Then another return, Trey Harvey, 1 return for 6 yards and a touchdown. I guess that was from a blocked field goal. Best defensive performer for the Oilers, Frederick Malley, 7 tackles and 4 assists. Then we got, honestly, because 2 of the more bottom tier teams of the league, you have, it's quite interesting. The San Antonio Gunslingers beat the Tuscan Sugar Souls. All they did was score once, scored just every time in the, excuse me, scored at least once every quarter. And the Tuscans, because all their score came in the first quarter, then after that, just shut out the rest of the game. I was quite interesting how that happened, but San Antonio beat the Tuscan Sugar Skulls 35-17. San Antonio quarterback Fred Payton Jr., 11 through 18, 194 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, 8 attempts for 61 yards and a touchdown. Wide receiver Dion McShane, 4 receptions, 84 yards, 2 rushing attempts for 13 yards and a touchdown. Wide receiver Glenn Gibbons, 3 receptions, 73 yards and a touchdown. Wide receiver Dean Cooks, 3 receptions, 26 yards and 2 TDs. On defense, Larry Brooks III, 10 tackles, 3 assists, and 1 forced fumble. For the Gunslingers, for the Sugar Skulls, Taslin Wilson, the quarterback, 15 through 30, 114 yards, a TD, an interception, 7 rushing attempts for 17 yards and a touchdown. Wide receiver Terry, 6 receptions for 57 yards and a touchdown. And on defense, Chucky Williams, 27 tackles and interception. And final game, and also seems to be on trend for the Indoor Football League. For some odd reason, there's at least 1 or 2 games. For some reason, you can't get stats on their website, and that's the final game with probably the Western Conference title game in order to play for the Indoor Football League Championship this summer, with the Arizona Rounders going to Vegas against the defending IFL champions. And very back and forth game, but Vegas Nighthawks beat the Arizona Rattlers 56-42. Honestly, I don't know why the IFL has not fixed this. Sometimes, and honestly, there was one game that when I was checking the stats, it kept refreshing every 45 seconds and it was complete. Like, it usually did that because there has been a few games it's done, but it still plays like it's live days after the game. So I don't know. They still need to get that fixed. Just has some weird glitches. Now we get to what probably is, as of right now, probably the best week of this season, of this year, for this season for the Arena Football 1 League. So, first game, and this was the shocker of all the of all the games that happened this weekend. Because Albany Firebirds, the best team probably in the Arena Football 1, faces the worst team, the Washington Wolfpack. And somehow, after the first quarter, the Washington Wolfpack somehow got some courage, or somehow got the blessing of the Lord. And somehow Washington just got it really close, and it didn't stop until the end of the game before they were stopped. And the Washington, even though they lost, they only lost by 1 possession. The Albany Firebirds will beat the Washington Wolfpack 42-34, and it should have never been this close. Everyone was like, what the heck is going on in Washington? Is it because the Albany Firebirds traveled from the east to the west coast? I don't know, because we were just like, what the heck is going on here? And everyone was tuning into this game that was on the Vice Sports Network. So it's just like, what? We were just like amazing, like, okay, come on, let's see what's going on here. And it was just like, I'm hoping that the Washington Wolfpack continues to play like this for the rest of the season, because this is what I thought they had potential to do this season, because the last few weeks they have been pretty much the worst team in the league. So play like this the rest of Washington, and then you have a thing to build on for the future seasons in the AF1. So the Albany Firebirds beat the Washington Wolfpack, but they almost invaded a shocker, 42-34. Joshua Coca, quarterback for Albany, 12-24. That's another thing. He was only like 50% completions, which is odd for him. 211 yards and 5 TDs. Running back Trevon Shorts, 2 rush attempts for 3 yards and a touchdown. Wide receiver Darian Thomas, 5 receptions, 91 yards, 3 TDs. Wide receiver Dwayne Brown, 64 yards, 2 TDs. Best defensive performer, linebacker Drew Singleton, 15 tackles and a sack. Washington, Javier Megler, 23-36, 159 yards, 4 TDs, 2 rushing attempts for 17 yards, and a rushing TD. Wide receiver Keir Greer, 9 receptions, 74 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Wide receiver Quantavious Workman, 10 receptions, 58 yards, and a touchdown. And best defensive performer for the Wolfpack, Mertius Baggio, Badejo, very interesting name. 1 tackle and 1 sack. Apparently that was the best one. Then you got the Michigan Arsenal and Oregon Oregon Line going to Michigan, and last week it was the first game in Michigan through all these years, and now the Michigan Arsenal, and honestly, I had the Lightning beat the Arsenal last week because Michigan was still learning. They're one of the new expansion teams, and they're kind of, even though with losers, they're still kind of hot, similar to the Kentucky Barrels. But the Michigan Arsenal was able to got their first victory in against the Oregon Lightning, which I'm surprised they honestly should have won. But honestly, because I believe Dalton Cole got injured because they had two quarterbacks playing. So yeah, but the Michigan Arsenal beat the Oregon Lightning 46-36, and that was even the Oregon Lightning tried to make a comeback in the fourth quarter. Dalton Cole 7-19, 96 yards, a touchdown, no interceptions, 2 rushes for 2 yards. Other quarterback, Robert McCoy Jr., 9-18, 109 yards, 3 TDs, 1 rushing attempt for 7 yards, and a touchdown on the ground. Wide receiver, Angelo Groves, 4 receptions, 67 yards, 3 TDs. Wide receiver, Chris Lewis, 7 receptions, 95 yards, 1 touchdown. Best defensive performance, linebacker Kata Capote, and for some reason the stats are not on here for some reason. Michigan, Malik Henry, 9-23, 201 yards, 4 TDs. If he can just get some better accuracy, oh boy, for Malik. No interceptions, 1 rushing attempt for 6 yards and a touchdown. Fullback, Ricky Weaver, 7 attempts for 22 yards and 2 rushing TDs. Wide receiver, Daniel Williams, III, 2 receptions for 770 yards and 2 touchdowns. Wide receiver, Javier Flowers, 1 reception for 30 yards and a touchdown. Wide receiver, Draven Macon, 4 receptions, 58 yards and a touchdown. Best defensive performer, Michael White, 2 tackles, 1 attack, and 3 sacks. Then we go to a game that came to a finish, and a wild finish it was, with the Nashville Cats traveling to the new expansion team with Kentucky Barrels with the Nashville Cats, which people thought either them or Auburn going to win the championship. Nashville goes to Kentucky. Good game, back and forth, back and forth. Then you go into the 1-minute warning, and Kentucky Barrels were down down by 6. Then they go for a play. Excuse me. The quarterback he gets the ball, Hike fumbles it, recovers it, throws a lateral to Darius Prince. Then Darius Prince allows him to avoid a tackle to Dazon Epps for a final second, get in there for a touchdown. And the place went nuts. Because this is probably right now is the play of the year right now in arena football with those final seconds of this game. And the Kentucky Barrels beat the Nashville Cats and stay undefeated. Serious, this is so far the best I've seen in years for an expansion team play in arena football in a long time. And this is going to be a very good, because I think they do face each other again, but at Nashville, and that's going to be an interesting game. That or when they get to the playoffs, because the Nashville Cats, they're going to be wanting revenge very badly against the Kentucky Barrels. Nashville quarterback Tyler Coca, 23 for 35, 2 touchdowns, 4 TDs, 0 interceptions. Linebacker got some running duty, 2 rushing attempts for a yard and a touchdown. Wide receiver Malik Honeycutt, 11 receptions, 113 yards and 2 TDs. Wide receiver Jordan Gandy, 7 receptions, 127 yards, 1 touchdown. Wide receiver BK Smith Jr., 5 receptions, 39 yards and a reception touchdown. Best defensive performance, Trey Medes, 6 tackles. On the Kentucky Barrel side, Shea Spencer, 16-33, 219 yards, 3 TDs, 0 receptions, 5 attempts, and 2 yards. Running back slash offensive line Noah Butt-Englinger, weird name. 3 attempts, 1 yard, and a rushing TD. Uh, Wide receiver Dazon Epps, 3 receptions, 42 yards. Receiving 2 attempts for 5 yards and a rushing TD, which was because of that lateral was the winning touchdown. Wide receiver Darius Prince, 5 receptions, 74 yards, for 2 TDs, 1 rushing attempt for 5 yards, and best defensive performer Sidney Hudson Jr., 7 tackles and 3 sacks. And also for that final play, it went under review to double check, and the referees said it was a touchdown. So, going to be a good game. Then, of course, the last game, the Minnesota Monsters versus the Oceanside Bombers. No stats on this one, unfortunately, for some reason. Oceanside Bombers, even though they started hot, they're slowing down a little bit, but they're still playing close. So, for expansion teams go, even though they kind of have a losing record, they're still pretty good and they're still having pretty good success. So, Oceanside is still one of the more surprising expansions because everyone thought like this one is not going to do well, and it's still amazing to me the Oceanside Bombers and San Diego Strike Force, even with being two different arena leagues playing the same arena, still bogs my mind. The Minnesota Monsters getting their second victory of the year, being Oceanside Bombers 40-36. Now we go to the 2 games with the AAL, and interesting enough, today they did a preview because it looks like the AAL is going to be going to announce an expansion team for next year. Because as of right now, they got 4 teams, so it's going to be a brand new team, or they're going to promote through the AAL2 system, which they did with the with the Jersey Bearcats and the Mississippi Wolfpack, because the Wheeling Miners and the Columbus Lions were 2 teams from the National Arena League that got out of there and went to the AAL. So they, on their video, it showed kind of like the southeastern part of the states below the Missouri, Illinois, Ohio line. So you got from Kentucky to Florida down there. So something's going to go on that region right there. That was the preview. So there's a few. But I'm guessing it's more likely. My probability is higher on the AAL2 team being promoted to go into the major part, but we'll see. It could be a completely new team for all we know. The AAL here, you have the Columbus Lions beating the Mississippi Wolfpack at home 62-28, and then the Wheeling Miners beating the Jersey Bearcats 40-25. Now we go to the International Arena League. Because this was a team that had 2 straight games getting canceled, and then it was announced that one of the teams folded in Europe, and that is now the first team that got folded into the 2026, because the other teams that got out of league didn't fold. They got kicked out with the AIF for which was the Muskies and then the Wyoming Cavalry. And if my computer can just speed up a little bit. There we go. Need to zoom in here. IAL announces strategic European realignment and U.S. Showcase Series. For immediate release, the International Arena League is today announcing a strategic realignment of 2026 operations. While our matches in the United States have been played without issue and fan turnout has been strong, that's debatable. The opening few weeks of our season in Europe have faced significant, unforeseen arena and logistical challenges. Because we are committed to the quality of gameplay that aligns with our lofty expectations, we are taking immediate action to reset and refocus our international efforts. European realignment and Zurich consolidation. In light of extraordinary challenges with the local market and arena infrastructure, the IAL has made the decision to move on from the Zurich territory for the 2026 season. This consolidation allows the league to better bolster our remaining European squads and focus our resources more effectively on a long-term solution. All players on the Zurich Ibex roster have been granted a release in light of the ceasing of Operation Zurich. Please note that all players who were flown into Zurich by the league have been offered return flights home or are otherwise being reassigned to another team of their choice. Note that Zurich's acclaimed head coach, Tal Wise, will be reassigned within the league. So that's good, at least. So fold or maybe put on pause. It's still kind of confused because other people say folded. Schedule adjustment and refunds. Following the removal of the Zurich Ibex, the league is coordinating with its core European markets, ticketing partners, and local arenas regarding adjustments to scheduling and game operations for the remaining teams, ensuring sales for the all upcoming European based games as we adjust the weekly schedule, the opponents, and start times. To the end, full refund authorizations have been issued to Ticketmaster for all affected European games. So Ticketmaster is a thing in Europe, okay. Fans should contact Ticketmaster directly for refund information. A milestone for sport US doubleheaders on IAL YouTube to demonstrate the powerful we have vision for this league long term. We are proud to announce that we are making a big plunge of bringing all 4 Europe teams to America for a showcase series next weekend. These will be the first European teams in history to play arena football on American soil. These games were made possible through the rapid coordination of our coaches and personnel worldwide working in close contact with our U.S. arena partners. Both showcases will be available for the fans globally on our official IAL YouTube channel because so far on their YouTube channel has been the American games. We have not really seen the European games on their YouTube channel, which is odd. And just to go before here, the how this went for week 3 for the IAL. You have the Pennsylvania Benjamins beat the Utah Grade 8s again in a close match of 29-27. The Oregon or Arizona Juggernauts beat the Las Vegas Rockers 48-22. And then the Glasgow Tartans beat the England Eruptors. So for the IAL, how the games go for Saturday, you have the Stuttgart Stallions in versus the Glasgow Tartans that will be playing in Cincinnati, Ohio, along with the Utah Great Eights versus the Cincinnati Slingers. So you got both the European teams. They're still playing the European teams, not the American teams, but they're just playing in the American stadium. So that's going to be interesting. And then Sunday, the Dusseldorf Warriors will face the England Eruptors and the Arizona Juggernauts versus the Pennsylvania Benjamins. For that, I will have the Utah Grade Eights beat the Cincinnati Singers. The Tartans beat the Stuttgart Stallions. I'll have the Dusseldorf Warriors beat the England Eruptors, and then I'll have the Pennsylvania Benjamins beat the Arizona Juggernauts. Continuing for the games next week for the NAL, got 4 games, 3 on Saturday, which are the Salim Liberty versus Southwest Kansas Storm. So that's a good one to start with the Battle of Kansas again. The Louisiana Rubaroo versus the now team that has a win, the Omaha Beef. So I'll go with the Beef just because of the momentum they have, and after a week, so against the Rubaroo, that's at 6:30, and the Saline Liberty Southwest Kansas Storm are at 6 Central Time on the NAL Network. Armler Warbird versus the Sioux City Bandits at 7:10 Central Standard Time. I'll choose the Sioux City Bandits. The Pablo Punishers versus Colorado Spartans again in a rematch. I will have the Pablo Punishers against the Colorado Spartans at 2 o'clock Mountain Time on Sunday. IFL Week 9, the only Friday game that we have the Quad City Steamer versus Green Bay Blizzard on 8 o'clock on the overnight app, and that's actually a good one. Oof. Probably go with the Blizzard. It's going to be a close one, though. Then you got Fisher's Freight versus the Orlando Pirates on Yahoo on Saturday at 6 in the 6 Central Time. I'll probably go with the Pirates at home. San Antonio Gunslingers versus the Northern Arizona Wranglers at 8 p.m. on Yahoo. I'll go with the Gunslingers on that one. Sunday, got the Tulsa Oilers versus Jacksonville Sharks on Yahoo. This is going to be a very close one on this one. I'll take Jacksonville at home. Tuscan Sugar Skulls versus the Arizona Rattlers in another battle in Arizona on Yahoo at 7:30. Arizona Rattlers by a mile. AF1 first game at 3 o'clock. Going to be a good question for the Washington Wolfpack facing the Beaumont Renegades. Do they continue momentum that they had and play like they did against the Albany Firebirds, or do they dwindle down and play like they have been as the worst team in the league? I'll take the risk, go with the Washington Wolfpack over the Beaumont Renegades. Oregon Lightning versus the Nashville Cats at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. I'll go with the Nashville Cats. Minnesota Monsters versus the Michigan Arsenal at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. This is a coin flip, actually. I'll go with the Minnesota Monsters. Then you got the pretty much a game of the week here, the Kentucky Barrels versus the Albany Firebirds, and going to be probably a matchup for the eastern side of the Arena Football 1 here. Uh, I'll go with Albany, but barely. Because Kentucky, if they pull out that surprise win like they did last week against Nashville, then it's going to be very interesting. AAL, the Columbus Lions go to Jersey, Columbus. Then the final game, the Wheeling Miners versus at the Mississippi Wolfpack. I'm going with Wheeling on that one. So, and then that's pretty much it for this weekend on here for this upcoming deal for this arena season so far beginning of May, because we're, like I said, in about 2 weeks after that, the Arena League is going to start playing. There's going to be about 2 to 3 of the teams are going to have preseason games. Then they're going to start week 1 with their 9-game season, with the first year of having 8 teams. So now we're going to see how that goes, especially with the new teams. And I'm looking pretty close to the Monroe Greenheads, especially with Terry Bowden as their coach. So that's going to be it for this evening. I will not be able to have a show next week due to scheduling conflicts, so I'll be back in 2 weeks with going to try to do hard recap of the week before here, but like I said, no show next Tuesday, but the Tuesday after. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Arena Frontier here on Gateway Sports, and it's going to get pretty wild here because as of right now, one arena league is already done. NAL is getting close to being done. Then the arena league is going to start, and then the arena football 1, the arena league, and IFL, and then the AAL. Of course, they're going to kind of end kind of similar styles until we get to August. So 2026, pretty much wild, and hopefully there's not another increase or something. And then with the International Arena League, we're going to see what happens there. One team has gone folded / dormant, and then see how it goes. All I know is that if the IAL does not survive, AF1 needs to get the Utah grade 8s and the Pennsylvania Benjamin into that league, because I think that actually would do well for the league. Cincinnati, maybe. We just have to see, because I still need to see more of the Cincinnati Slingers to see how good of a market that's going to be. So we know with Utah and Pennsylvania Benjamins, they seem good and would be perfect. Thank you for joining me this evening. See you all in 2 weeks.